raining now.
I know it. I did my walking inside the mall instead of outside.
Okay. It's starting to
Less homeless to dodge when I'm inside. But
come.
good morning. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. It is a beautiful morning. We got a lot going on. Today I'm joined by my guest, Nickolas Wildstar. He's running against the evil Miguel Arias. Not a fan of Miguel Arias. I was at an event where he walked by and somebody simply said good morning to him. He didn't say anything else. His response started with an F.
Really?
Yep.
Well, that's actually the perception a lot of people have told me they have of him. So it's awful that you would have a representative of the, of the people and the community actually respond that way to the people he's supposed to represent. So
I was a little embarrassed. I've got just a couple calendar things, and then I'm going to have you do kind of an intro as to who you are and why you run it.
You got it.
Right now, we have an issue going on with Fresno at City Hall. And that issue is whether government should be buying the Tower Theater or whether that should be handled privately. And that is down at City Hall. So if you can't go, soon that will be on live. So you can watch right here on this station. This matters. What is the role of government? And I guarantee you today, because I'm talking to a man that has strong libertarian roots, that will come up, role of government. So I encourage you to get down there. Tonight, the Clovis chapter of Constitutionalist for California is having a meeting at 6:30 p.m. at 408 4th Street. That is the American Legion Hall in downtown Clovis. I lead that group. I would encourage people to come out and just see what we're about. Tuesday night, April 26th, Deli Casa is hosting the Kingsburg chapter of Constitutionalists for California. So that is a restaurant, that is a dinner meeting, won't be a lot of business, more a chance to get to know those folks. I normally go to the Kingsburg meetings also and would encourage you to just go down and see what they're about. My final event. As you know, our sheriff is retiring. And I think that she's been instrumental in protecting some of our freedoms during COVID. It's not a perfect department, but I think she stepped up and was very useful. She has endorsed a man named John Zanoni. I don't know him very well, but an opportunity to get to know him, to determine whether he's your candidate, is happening May 11th at 5:30 p.m. at Pardini's. They want you to RSVP that at TB Russ, RUSSEAU, at centralvalleygroup.com. That's TB Russ, EAU, at centralvalleygroup.com. That's all my events.
All right.
So you made it through all that. Sometimes it's longer than that, but I limited it today. I thought we had a lot to discuss. So, brief intro. Who are you? Where are you from? Why are you running?
Stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, my name again is Nickolas Wildstar. I am originally from Wisconsin. I'm a Wisconsin native. I've lived in California for over 20 years now.
Welcome to the good weather.
Oh, yeah. That's actually one of the things I moved out here to enjoy, But another one of them was I moved out here to pursue a career in music. A relative at the time who lived out in California came and visited me in Wisconsin when I was a teenager and invited me to come out to California to pursue my career in music. He was going to help me. So after high school, that's exactly what I did. And I did pretty well as an independent independent musician. I have music and movies like Scary Movie 4. I was one of the first artists to have my music on music streaming platforms like Spotify and iTunes and all that good stuff, before the turn of the century, I guess. Yeah. Before all of the
So you were a pioneer when it was probably still hard to upload a song.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was one of the first. So I was able to make quite a lot of noise as again, an underground musician, and that landed me those successes. But during that uh, during that time, I had also went through a growing phase. I was a teenager. I came from California, or came from Wisconsin to California at 17, and I spent my entire adult life out here. So just learning about going to work, paying bills, all of that was new. And one of the things that first struck me was just how high the taxes are in California. It's like you're taxed for the income tax, of course, first, and then, the rent and car payments and buying a car and all of the
Property tax when you get there, and all kinds of business taxes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had family members that were complaining over how much it was to buy a house, and of course the location, etc. So I saw the difficulties firsthand from people on the street, people in the community, and those were things that I read about or wrote about and expressed in my music, and that, I believe, opened my eyes to like the political reality that we live in, where we as sovereign beings still live under the authority of a government, where everything that we do has to have a permission slip attached.
I don't actually, I understand that has become the reality for a lot of people, but I think that our rights purposely come from God through the Constitution.
Absolutely.
That is one of the most important things written in that Constitution.
But the people sworn to uphold that constitutional oath don't care about it.
No, they don't.
Violate it left and right. And how often do we see people actually rebel versus 1776, when we actually came together to say, no, we're not going to take it anymore. But right now, even, especially with this whole pandemic, it's put the American public in this position of complacency. Mm-hmm. And we've allowed more authoritarian practices by our government now more than ever before, where we let them tell us what we should be putting into our bodies just to go from point A to point B. That's
our bodies and our brains.
Yeah.
Look at all the censorship.
Yeah, indeed. And that's a God-given right, is our right to travel, and that should never be violated, never be restricted. But yet now we're being told just to do exactly that, we must put something that could possibly kill us into our bodies. So
and we don't actually get informed consent.
Exactly. Yeah. So
now, because I don't want to be kicked off, we can talk about it in this general way.
Mm. Talk about
COVID.
Yeah.
COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
I don't want people to be able to see the video. People need to understand that on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, they don't believe in freedom there.
Yeah.
They will censor it, and they have actually removed videos. So we can talk about it in a general way.
Right. I call it the virus that shall not be named, Yep.
Yeah. That's exactly the way. Yeah. Now, I have a couple of questions. You talked about a music career. What kind of music?
Hip-hop, rap
Hip-hop.
music.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually worked on both sides, in front of the microphone and behind. I went to recording engineering school and became a sound engineer, and pretty much used that as kind of like my back door to get into studios and meet with producers and other artists and build relationships, etc. But like I said, my focus was just to stay the independent route, because I saw what the control that record labels wanted to have over creative control, the type of music that I wanted to put out. And when I'm talking about what the record label is doing, they don't really want to
right.
put money behind me saying things like that. So that's why
that hasn't changed today.
Oh no, not at all. If anything, we're seeing more of a saturation of music across the board because of that. Yeah. Not too many artists are standing up to say, I want to be able to speak out against this and not suffer any recourse because of it.
Now, I understand you recently have some kids.
Yeah.
How did that change your perspective? Did that make you want when you go through that process, it changes everything. And I now see you want to run for office.
Oh, yeah.
What role did that play?
Well, I ran for office way back before I had my son. Yeah, first time I ever ran for office was back in 2014. I ran for governor as an independent candidate. I was involved in the Occupy Wall Street movement, so I was one of those quote unquote leftist protesters, but I didn't consider myself such a thing because the message I was actually out there promoting at the time was ending the Federal Reserve, which I had learned about through Dr. Ron Paul, 2018 candidate, or pardon me, 2008 candidate for president. I didn't know that he ran against Barack Obama at that time.
He basically created no waves in that election.
Yeah, unfortunately. But he had me after Obama sold out, we the people. And that's when I was on board to support him for his 2012 presidential campaign. And that was my first time ever getting involved in political activity, going out and campaigning and stumping for the candidate, doing canvassing, phone banking, actually going out to events and conventions, etc. So that kind of, I guess, is where I cut my teeth on the whole political activity. And in one of the many speeches that I heard him give, he said, if you really want to change what's going on in your community, run for office, run locally, run,
I went a different route. I'm on the radio.
All right. But hey, and you're giving me a platform and opportunity to speak and be heard. So yeah. God bless you for it and thank you.
Because we have this whole Tower District, or Tower, it is in the Tower District, but the Tower Theater issue. If you were on the city council, is it okay for the government, for the city council to buy and be involved in the transaction of a private business?
I don't think so. I don't think that government should be involved in any private transaction, any business transaction for that matter, especially when it's supposed to be free market. It's not necessarily free when it's being controlled by the forces that be. So with the whole Tower Theater deal, the community that I've spoken with, the community members are supportive of them actually being there and being the owners of that building. And the church, I haven't spoken with them at all, but from what I've heard, they haven't chosen to change the way that the theater operates.
No, they absolutely have not.
And yeah, exactly. The event promoter that actually controls, event happenings that goes on there hasn't changed. So for anybody that's fearful that, I guess, the church changing the atmosphere of Tower Theater, their concerns are unfounded, especially since the church has always had a presence in the Tower Theater area. So if anything, this will improve that relationship between the church members and every other member of the community.
Well, I don't know about every other. I would say all of them that are willing to be tolerant and have a conversation, it would improve the relationship.
Yes.
If you've been to any of the protests that happen every Sunday, the hardcore nutso leftists, I mean, they're yelling, they're screaming, they're not rational. And so how do you have a conversation with somebody that is not willing to be rational, that wants to pick a fight and believes that the church doesn't have a right to even be there?
I wish you could. Unfortunately, I guess that's the territory that I'm stepping into, is having those difficult conversations, which I'm willing to have, is hearing out those people and talking about what concerns them the most. But if it's going to be, again, based on unfounded allegations or concerns, then there is no compromise there. Right. How can you convince someone that doesn't want to be convinced?
Right. If there's no dialogue, you don't even begin to see each other's humanity.
Right. But from what I've learned, is the people out there that are actually protesting against them are leaders of certain groups that don't really align with the majority of the feelings.
Even the majority of the Tower.
Yeah.
This is the hardcore left of the Tower. The Tower's pretty left.
Yeah. And I've spoken to a few businesses around there, a few different business owners. If anything, they appreciate the church being there because on certain days they have more activity, and of course that means more business, and for those that are there patronizing them. So they're welcome there. And so as a city council representative that would be representing that district and the interests on both sides, that's what I would encourage, is a dialogue, a conversation being had where we could clear the air with those people that are most unhappy about them being there. Because again, the people that are happy about them, no complaints at all, if
Right.
anything, do more. But yeah, and that's actually what the church wants to do. If they want to help clean up the streets, get the homeless off the streets, and provide more resources for people that are seeking drug rehabilitation, then why not? Especially when it's needed.
Yeah. Can you define your district? Roughly, what is the area? I know it's Tower District, but can you flesh it out just a little bit more than that?
Yeah, Tower, downtown, Central, Chinatown, basically like anything, I would say north and south of the 99 strip between like Olive and I'm not sure where the cutoff is, but towards the downtown area.
Maybe as far as Jensen? Or you think it could?
Possibly, yeah. But I'm still learning the area. My wife and I, we moved to Fresno 2 years ago, right before the coronavirus lockdowns. So unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to travel much when when that time happened. But now we're venturing out into town more. There's more community happenings, and thankfully we're able to go out more because of that, and take our son out to see as well.
Well, it was very much a tale of two cities. Clovis, May 8th, decided that they were going to largely reopen.
Mm-hmm.
That they were going to allow people to have their freedom and live their life. Fresno took an entirely different path. What do you think about the path that Fresno took? They shut down businesses. They picked winners and losers, meaning which the mega businesses got to make a whole lot of profit and the small businesses got crushed.
Yeah, indeed.
What would you have done differently if you were on the city council at the time?
Well, I wouldn't have supported unjustified and unconstitutional shutdowns of businesses and our public services. I mean, we're still paying for them as taxpayers. We're paying for schools, even though they shut down the schools, and parents weren't able to send their children to get educated by people that, again, they're paying for it. They're paying for the teacher salaries. They're paying for public officials to be there and administer these schools. So why not be able to utilize them? Closing down churches, that never should have happened. So as city council member, I definitely would have stood on my oath. I would have protested against any city council member supporting such an idea, and I would have voted no against any proposal to shut down in such a thing. But if anything, I would have reminded my fellow council members, including the mayor, who also serves the city and the people, is that you have an oath, a constitutional oath to uphold, and nothing gives you the authority to restrict someone's freedom as they chose to do. So if anything, I feel like we the people should be holding them accountable for that failure, to uphold that basic duty, which is to protect our rights and freedoms. That's government's job. So if they're not doing that basic function, then what are you good for? So government itself as a body, as an entity, isn't really a problem. It's the people involved with it. So people that are frustrated with it and certain functions of it, it's the people involved that are creating the avenue for that. The overtaxation, the over-regulation, and the way that we end that is by getting people in office that actually reject that idea, reject those, those standing points, which I do. So, Miguel Arias, he was one of the people on city council that was most vocal in supporting, the lockdowns and
shutdowns, masks, and vaccines.
Oh yeah,
he was all in on all three of those.
Absolutely.
How can I be a petty little dictator?
Right. And
that's me saying that, whether you want to say that or not. I don't consider him a friend.
I'll allow you to do so for my sake. Thank you. So, and speaking of for the community, yes, I was actually there as a member of the community at the Reopen Fresno protest.
That's when we first met.
Yeah. All right. So I did my best to be as involved as possible. But of course, when it comes to the mainstream media, they want to demonize those involved, call them far right extremists,
and lie about the numbers of people that were there.
Oh yeah, and
yes, there? I'm calling Fox 26. I'm calling ABC. I'm calling the Fresno Beat. All of you lied about the numbers that are there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm absolutely not backing down on that. I was there. I walked up the steps of City Hall and counted people, and I'm pretty sure that because people were moving, I couldn't get an exact number, but each one of those Reopen Fresnos had more than 500 people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they claimed 100 or less in all of those sources I just named. Somebody's lying.
Yeah, no way. I got videos on my YouTube channel. They haven't banned them yet, but they're there. Yeah. But yeah, I show you firsthand. And my YouTube channel has over 30,000 subscribers. I have over 7 million views from me protesting against abuses of authority by our government officials. And I think that's what it takes right now.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. I want to say thank you to all the people that are watching live on Facebook. Those are on Twitter, those on Spotify, those on YouTube, and some of you can listen 3 to 4 on Saturdays to this show. So if you like what I'm doing, like, subscribe. If you like what this man's doing, we will get some contact information. So when we come back, I wanted to jump into just a little bit about crime because it's out of control in Fresno. It's a little better in Clovis, but it's out of control everywhere in California. So we're going to go ahead and come back. And this is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Today I'm speaking with Fresno City Council candidate. He's running for Miguel Arias' position. Largely that's the Tower District position. What is the district number?
District 3.
That is District 3.
Yes.
And my guest is Nickolas Wildstar.
Hello, hello.
So if you're just tuning in, this man has some strong libertarian leanings, but I don't really have a problem with that. We were going to jump into what's going on with crime in Fresno and how potentially, as a city council member, you could make a difference because you essentially control the purse strings for Fresno PD. So what's the problem? How do we fix it?
I'm not going to say there's an easy one-way solution. I think that's been the problem with a lot of our elected officials is they say they have an answer. And every time they implement that answer,
there's new problems.
Exactly. So if anything, I think there needs to be a reduction of our restrictions of letting law enforcement do their jobs. That's what I see as being a big problem and have heard from people in the community is they want to see more patrolling in their neighborhoods. They want to see a greater police presence to prevent petty crimes that happen, major crimes that could possibly happen.
So no defund the police. You want them out there engaged with the community?
No, if anything, I've heard, again, more support for police presence in the community. Doesn't matter what the person's skin color is. Doesn't matter how much
should never
money,
matter. It does occasionally to some people, but it should never matter.
Yeah, and that's the thing is if we focus on what the people themselves are actually saying, versus the rhetoric that we hear from the mainstream media, machine that we know is bought out by corporatists who have a specific agenda, then, we will find out the truth. So I thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak on such issues for those that are listening so they can actually hear out of the horse's mouths,
Right.
What we want. And we, the people, want more safety, more security. And that's exactly what I'm going to deliver as a city council member. Also would like to provide more resources to the neighborhood watch groups. One of the ones that I'm involved with, that's where they feel like their hands are tied also, is because when they see crime activity and they go to report on it, there's a long line, and that actually deters them from wanting to report those crimes, is because they know that if they call the hotline, they're going to be put on hold for hours. They're going to be told it's not a priority, because I guess it's not as violent, and someone's not being harmed. But if someone's mailbox is being broken into right in front of their house,
They're being harmed.
Yeah, exactly. It's their property. And there's damage being done. And if there's also drag racers down residential streets while people are out there with their kids, and that's a fear of mine. My son is 3, is about to be 3, but, he's small enough to where if he's running around in the neighborhood, me yelling stop to him isn't going to immediately do it, so I don't want somebody racing down the street and could cause a threat to us as we're jogging, but making sure that there's speed bump installations, which hasn't been done, even though there's been a demand for that also, could help reduce the amount of crime in that area, the traffic crime. And like I said, more resources to the community members that actually want to help. Give them easier eligibility to get involved into the into the Citizens Police Academy, which Paco has talked about expanding.
Well, it is difficult to find officers, and because Fresno is a difficult department, they have to actually pay a little more, which means they don't get quite as many officers because they got to pay each a little more. Now, it's a tough job, and I'm not begrudging them their pay.
Yeah. But if you get actual people in the community that say, hey, I want to get involved in keeping my community safe, maybe the person may have a felony or, a criminal background, and that prevents them from getting, employment elsewhere. What greater outlet than, law enforcement? So now they're working with law enforcement. Now they actually are the people in the streets that are in touch. What's that?
I agree that ideally you want officers that know their community, that know the people in their community, because then they will have a better pulse of what's going on.
Yes.
Also, with them having a relationship, they're much more likely to understand.
Yeah, exactly.
To show compassion when it's needed, and to nail somebody when it's needed.
And that's what people also want, an improved relationship with police. What greater way than to create that again than actually have people, that are actually in those neighborhoods working with the police to keep the streets safe. So if they know the goings on, if they know the drug dealers, they know who's doing the trafficking, of drugs and people and etc., then they can actually do the reporting directly to police officers. And, so yeah, if anything, that'll also give them a path to, a new career, which they're looking for also is a job opportunity. And
so you're talking about something like they would almost be a community service officer, which is not quite a full officer in a lot of ways.
Yeah, we have a Citizens Police Academy, and they're not as well paid as police officers, but if they get to that point where they are getting paid, then I think that's taxpayers' money well spent, wouldn't you say? I also think that there's also underlying factors to the crime that happens in our community. If someone is going out and committing a theft, then most likely they're doing it because they need the money for something. what is it they need that money for? If they're just doing,
it might be to eat, but I'd say in a lot of cases it's drugs.
Yeah. And if it's a drug fix, that's something else. Now you need drug rehabilitation, and then that'll take off your dependency for the need for drugs, which would prevent you from going out and committing that theft.
If it's a program that works.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of recidivism,
and
meaning they do it over and over.
Yeah, because those programs don't work. And we don't want to admit that either, about how our drug rehabilitation programs have failed the community. Our mental health programs have failed the community. Why do we keep pouring taxpayers' money into these failed programs? Because you have politicians saying they work, they work, they work. Give us more of your money so we can feed more into the system that doesn't work, instead of getting out of the way and allowing the free market. This is where the libertarian part of me comes in. Because they have a greater incentive. They actually are paid.
Well, sometimes it's because they're paid. I would say that they're also paid with the government system, but there's no accountability.
Exactly.
So whether they have good results or no results, a lot of them seem to be just concerned that they've proven they're good people.
Yes, indeed. But if I'm an investor into a mental health, facility or something, I want to see proven results. It being subsidized by government funding, that takes away that companies, again, drive to want to prove those results. They don't need me as an investor, and they don't need to prove those results, because the more that they are able to drag out actually improving the conditions, then the more money that they're going to able to continue to receive.
Right. So, they create a bigger problem.
Yeah.
So that then we need more people, so that then they have a bigger bureaucracy, but it still never addresses the problem.
Right.
I think some of the most successful groups are church groups.
Indeed. And now we have
and here's the key why. I'm going to let you talk, but the key why is because they expect something of the people they're helping.
Right. And their incentive is different. It's not a monetary gain. It's more of a spiritual
a calling to help people.
A calling, exactly. An ethical drive, a moral drive to go out and want to do something to help someone. And that's actually what we're seeing with our homelessness. There's
where I was headed next.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate now that church groups, other advocate groups, individuals, organizations, etc., have had their hands tied by helping the homeless with this new city ordinance that is, again, authored by Miguel Arias.
Define that ordinance, because I'm not sure all my listeners will know it.
No problem. There's a new city ordinance that prevents people of the community, including church organizations and homeless advocacy groups, from going into a homeless encampment when there's a cleanup. And sometimes that's essential because they're being ushered out. They don't have a place to go. Some of them still don't want to go where they're being told or where they're being ushered to by the government agencies. But if the church comes in with resources for them, they can now be fined $250 or even charged with a misdemeanor for doing so. And this also includes members of the press. So right now our city is being sued by the ACLU, and that's going to be more taxpayers' money down the drain.
Well, I'd assume they're going to lose this one. So
yeah, definitely.
And even if they don't, though I imagine they're going to lose it, even if they don't, it's still going to cost significant money.
Absolutely, yeah. You're tying up the city attorney with
nonsense.
Nonsense, exactly. So give someone like me an opportunity to get into office so we can get rid of that ordinance, allow churches, advocacy groups, individuals, etc., to go into the community, help the homeless, and provide them with the resources that they need, and use city funding in a more smart way. I actually would like to build 3D printed homes. This 3D printed technology exists right now, and if we built a manufacturing plant here in Fresno, that would create jobs and also improve the economy here locally, because now we're able to create those 3D printed homes here in the city. And the 3D printed homes can be created in less than 24 hours. Some houses cost less than $10,000 each. But again, if we took the millions of dollars, tens of millions, hundreds of millions over time that they poured into addressing homelessness, into just doing this, then now it's a permanent solution to not only address homelessness, but affordable housing. If you have a family that would love to build a home on some property, on some land that they, may have, instead of them, acquiring all of the materials, which we know cost an arm and a leg, and the license fees that are tens of thousands of dollars also, which I would like to suspend. I would like to expand collection of our license fees. I work in construction, and I speak with homeowners all of the time, and they tell me that's a deterrent from them developing.
That's a huge deterrent.
Absolutely. But yeah, we need to provide more affordable housing as well. So what better way to do that than 3D printed homes?
My understanding is to build a new home in Fresno, city of Fresno. Last time I looked, and this statistic's a couple years old, was something like $50,000 was just in fees before anything else.
Exactly. You said it. Just in fees. Before you even buy materials, before you even break ground, you're paying that much. It's ridiculous. So what better way to provide some type of economic relief to the people right now? That's who needs it the most. The corporations, they've gotten their bailouts, they've gotten their tax breaks. What about the hardworking people? And that's what I represent, the working class people here in the city. And I want to make sure that they are able to have the economic relief that they deserve and should have received this entire time through this pandemic. And the best way that we can do that is by suspending collection of taxes, license fees, business license fees, etc., to cut down those out-of-pocket costs that are preventing them from being able to pay their bills and, keep food on their tables. But because that's what's most important.
For me, it's a lot about government getting out of the way of innovative solutions. I understand we need some government. Somebody needs to make sure that the trash is picked up, that nobody's polluting in a major way, that the roads are taken care of, and that public safety is taken care of. Though I think they crossed the line with COVID and public safety, because they went from public safety to you don't have rights.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to go ahead and take one more break. This is our last break. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. When we come back, we're going to try to hear, or I want to hear about my guest's vision for how he would change what's going on and why he's hopeful. So I always liked it. That's the last part of the show, and then I want you to give us some contact information. So, I'd say let's go ahead and come back and jump right into it. We are ready to go. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX, the best talk in town. Today I'm joined by Nickolas Wildstar, and he's trying to change what's happening in the city of Fresno, because it's a big mess.
Yes.
They need some new council members. And he is running against Miguel. There he is.
You could get it out.
He needs to go.
He's been there long enough, even though this is his first term, right?
He's been there way too long. I don't see him as responsive to the people. He's got his own agenda. He's rude, foul, and probably dishonest. That one is not quite proved yet. But there's a lot of things that happened with city credit cards that aren't okay.
Right. And he's being sued right now also. There's some Brown Act allegations.
For how he conducted meetings when he was in charge.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a lawsuit against him as well. Just more scandal and not very exemplary of a public servant. So hopefully people will choose me to be the new blood, new face and voice of the people.
So, do you have a website?
I do. I'm using my crowd pack right now. It's crowdpac.com/C. Go Wild Fresno. CrowdPack is like a GoFundMe for political candidates. So I'm promoting my CrowdPack because I want people to see that I'm all about transparency. All the money that you see there that I have fundraised for my campaign is the exact dollar amount of what I've received. Miguel Arias, I believe, in a recent Fresno Bee interview, he exposed that he got about $150,000 in donations. Where is that money going? Because I don't see any signs around town, no events that he's hosting or anything. Nothing.
He's probably saving it for his next campaign.
Probably, and who knows what he's going to be running for. But if he's running for city council, his second term, he's not spending it very well because the ballots will be sent out early May 9th. So in a couple of weeks, you'll be getting your mail-in ballot, and election day is June 7th. So please choose Nickolas Wildstar for Fresno City Council District 3.
And regardless of who your candidate is, vote in person.
Yes, absolutely.
It is much safer.
Yeah. I believe they open voting centers in some areas earlier than the 10-day period.
And you can always go to the Register of Voters office, which is downtown.
Absolutely, yes.
And vote something like 2 weeks early.
Yeah, and
as soon as you get that ballot, you can go surrender your ballot and vote in person.
Yeah, and it takes nothing but a minute, so please definitely be sure to vote. On my CrowdPack, you're able to make donations. If you're able to make a financial contribution, I would greatly appreciate it. But if not, you can still endorse my campaign for free on my CrowdPack. And my social media is there as well: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, so you can connect with me.
Give your biggest one for social media.
Oh, what do you mean?
Which one do you have the biggest following so people can find you there?
On my Instagram. That's the one I'm more active in, is on my Instagram.
Now, is it just under Nickolas Wildstar?
Governor Wildstar. Yeah. Okay. I ran for governor in 2014. Then again in 2018, I was endorsed by the Libertarian Party. And then most recently, I ran as a candidate in the recall election. So I suspended my 2022 gubernatorial campaign that I had planned because I just wasn't getting the funding needed. People pay attention to the glitz and glamour of politics, unfortunately. And, when you're a grassroots candidate, it's hard to compete.
It is very hard.
So I figured I could take out Miguel Arias, show the people what I can do, show improve, and hopefully maybe later on down the line, we'll see where it goes. But in the meantime, I would love to serve the people of Fresno as a council member.
So what would you change? Day one, obviously you can't do it on your own. Who's your ally, and what's your number one thing you do when day one you're elected?
Well, I'm good with building allyship across the board. So whether it's somebody across party lines, I don't know, maybe Annalisa Perea if she ends up, replacing Esmeralda.
Well, Soria's running for assembly.
Yeah.
So,
but she's leaving. District 1 seat is now going to be open. Yeah. So maybe Mike Briggs, he's a Republican. He's running. It's a nonpartisan race. So
right.
The whole Republican Democrat thing doesn't matter. But of course, when it comes to, again, building those relationships to get what we want accomplished as council members is going to be key. So I've reached out to Gary Bredefeld, haven't heard back from him yet, but we'll see what happens. And again, since the districts 1, 3, 5, and 7, mainly the leftist group of council members are up for election this year, we'll see who replaces them, and those will be the new council members that I work with. But my main thing is transparency and accountability. So okay. I would like to. What's that?
So no. So
I want to move towards that.
I don't want to get in the way of hearing about that.
I want to move towards that direction because I feel like, of course, with us coming into office off of this scandal with the whole city council credit cards and again the Brown Act violations, that we want to let the people know moving forward that they're going to be able to trust this new council and that we're going to be open and honest with our doings. So I support moving towards making sure that our accounting is actually done publicly online, so people can go to websites like transparentcalifornia.com per se, to find out actually where our dollars are going in real time. Maybe we can even upgrade it to where it's on the blockchain, and that way we know 100% that that information is what
Real.
it is. Exactly. So yeah, implementing blockchain into our recording and reporting, I feel like is a step into the right direction, especially when we're utilizing technological advancements for the improvement of how government operates. So that's one of the better ways that we can just do it on the administrative side, is make sure that our bookkeeping is done on the blockchain. And again, if it's online and public, now people can see and have access to all of that information. So I want to improve that on the budgetary side. Like I said, to make sure that people can know where our dollars are going. And also with making sure that our oath of office stays intact. You know, no matter what happens here moving forward with this coronavirus crisis, we want to make sure that we're not violating people's God-given rights. You know, they're inalienable rights that the founders of our country felt like in the body of our Constitution was protected, was respected.
So are you a constitutionalist?
I certainly am, first and foremost.
Where is your foundation? You know, kind of the foundation. What is the baseline that allows you to, or the filter that allows you to make your decisions as you move through your life?
To me, it's all about karma. I'm a big one of those. I'm a big person, and what you do will come back to you. And if you're out there sowing good seeds, then hopefully, you know, without people sowing bad seeds against you, then you should bear good fruit. You know, so as much as I do with my activity, I make sure that I make certain choices that, again, that if something were to happen, if things were to go left with whatever choice that I made or whatever action, that it would not harm me. And I feel like if we all started to act and behave that way, then we would see less consequences.
The golden rule's another way to put that.
Exactly. Treat others how we want to be treated. And unfortunately, government doesn't, you know, tend to care about that essential rule so much as I do. So
they don't see themselves as servants.
Exactly.
They see themselves as overlords.
Right. So we need to change that mindset. I'm one of those people that where I understand that the Constitution applies to the government, not the people. The rights for the people come from the God, come from their God, not from the government. You know. So as long as we have city officials and elected officials across the board acting in that mindset, then we shouldn't have any problems with them. So if I have to use my position, you know, as a council member and use that soapbox to correct the actions of others by calling a news conference or calling a conference to the people. I want to have actually monthly city hall meetings where we, well, in my district.
How about in person?
Yeah, absolutely. Where we just sit down.
I'm somewhat saying that jokingly because City Hall has been largely closed.
Yeah, and
it's all been Zoom,
virtual. Yeah,
and they can't feel you.
Right.
We're running out of time. Why are you hopeful? Why your best case is to why you should be elected and why you're hopeful it can all happen.
I'm very hopeful because people can't stand Miguel Arias.
That does help.
Yes, very much so. And they're looking for something new. So I believe what makes me stand out and most hopeful is that I have great ideas that people are very supportive of when it comes to improving the life conditions of the homeless, when it comes to improving the life condition of the residents of Fresno altogether. Everybody has that concern at their forefront, and they want to make sure that their city council representative is focusing on that as well. So when meeting people, I let them know that's my drive, that's my focus, and they trust me enough. I think that's what matters the most, if anything, is just knowing that the person that they're going to vote for is authentic and trustworthy, and I'm that candidate.
Well, I thank you for joining me today. We're just about out of time. This is Eric Rollins, the Constitutionalist, here on 1550 KXEX. I want to say thank you to all the people that managed to make it through the whole show. I'm hoping it's now exciting enough that, you don't nod off to sleep. Can you give your website one more time and contact information?
Indeed. It's crowdpac.com/C/GoWildFresno. You can reach me on Instagram, Facebook at Governor Wildstar, and on Twitter at The Real Q Ball. That's just as it sounds.
Well, I got to tell you, you got a great hairstyle.
Thank you very much. I'm the real Q Ball, and that's Q like quick,
That have to do with rap?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to look you up.
Ball. Yeah, you got to listen to my music.
I would definitely will. I've been a rap fan since I was in high school.
All right.
My favorite all-time song is Bill Biv DeVoe, Potholes in My Lawn.
Right on. Well, I'm nothing like that, but you'll enjoy it.
Okay, cool. Well, I thank you very much.